Okay, this is part two to cold weather clothing, layering basics, and simplifying your clothing selection. First video, you can go back and look at that one. I just discussed some of the background, some of the factors that are involved. Um, Continuing with a few more factors is you have to keep in mind what you're going to be doing. Are you going to be hiking? Are you going to be very active? Are you going to be jogging? Or are you going to be sitting in an ice house fishing on a lake? Or are you going to be sitting in a tree stand in the beginning of November with temperatures hovering in the anywhere from the 30s down to the teens, down to zero? Those also play a part. If you're going to be more sedentary, logic dictates that you'll most likely wear more insulating layers. If you're going to be more active, you won't have to wear as many layers. So that brings up the concept behind layering, because no matter what you're doing, but let's just talk about being in the outdoors in general. More likely than not, you're not going to be doing one thing the whole time you're outside. You're not just going to be sitting in a tree stand, and you're not just going to be hiking. You're going to be doing a little bit of each. You might be sitting, cooking, starting a fire, processing wood, harvesting wood, being super active. At night, you might slow down a little bit. And yeah, you might have a campfire and you can stay warm around there, but hiking, say you're cross-country skiing, very active, you won't want to wear a lot of clothing because you'll start sweating, which can be a real killer in cold weather. So, if you have to get a notebook and a pen and start writing these down, factors that you want to include, your age plays a part, your BMI plays a part, how acclimated you are to cold weather plays a part, and your activity level plays a part, and your metabolism plays a part, how much calories you're going to be eating, and how well hydrated you'll be. All those things play a part. But for the most part, when I'm thinking about outdoor clothing, whether you're talking about a survival situation or just being out in the woods, I always gravitate towards not all the way towards this side, but I gravitate towards worst case scenario. So my plan might be to be having 4 square meals a day, drinking 3 liters of water, 4 liters of water a day. All those things, that's maybe what I'm planning. But with my clothing, I like to plan on the worst case. There may be a chance that I will be slightly dehydrated, or there might be a chance that I won't have time to cook, or I might be hungry. And the other thing is temperature can change all the time. So if the forecast says it's going to get down to 20, I'll, being that worst case scenario, I'll tell myself it's going to get down to 0 degrees because there's still that slight chance that it will. So, with all that being said, all the factors, let's talk about layering for a second. If you wanted to, you could go out and buy a big down parka, big pair of down or synthetic fill snow pants, big insulated boots, big mittens, all this ultra insulated gear. The problem you run into is once you start exerting yourself even the slightest amount, you'll start to sweat. And it's either a 0 or 100% scenario, because you might be wearing a t-shirt under that parka, but once you start sweating, you'll unzip that jacket and you'll take it off. Now you're in a t-shirt. Within instants, you'll start getting really cold, so you'll put the parka back on. and then you'll start sweating, and then you'll take the parka off, going back and forth. So most of your time will be consumed by taking that jacket on and off, or those pants, or the gloves, or any article of those clothing. The concept behind layering is just that, is layering. So if you start heating up a little bit, you might take this off. A little bit more, you'll take this off. So this is a PrimaLoft insulated coat. Underneath that, I have a thick wool sweater. So it's not like I'm going from, I'm able to go from 100% to 80% to 60%, 40%, 20% to like shirtless if I wanted to. If for some reason I was that hot, or the temperature's warmed up that much, or whatever the case may be. So that's the ideology and the background behind layering, as opposed to just highly insulated clothes in general. Another advantage is a lower cost of clothing. What I mean by that is, if you're on the cheap, you can go to the thrift shop and you can find wool sweaters, and you can find different rain shells, or windbreakers for $2, $5, 50 cents, whatever the case may be. So over time, you can find good deals and spend your money, as opposed to finding that $300, $400 Arctic parka and having to lay down all the coin all at once. The other advantage is you can utilize that clothing through a wider range of temperatures and seasons. So that big mountain parka that you have, that has the fancy fur hood, and it goes down to your knees, super warm, waterproof, windproof, the whole nine. If you only have, say, 1 month of the year that it gets really that bitterly cold that you have to use that piece of clothing, that's the only time you're going to use it. With layering, a lot of these clothes I wear in the spring and in the fall, some of them in the summer, and then I just combine them in the winter, so I can utilize the clothing, which means I have to buy less clothes. So that means that I can buy higher quality clothes, or duplicates or triplets of those clothes. So that's another advantage a lot of people don't talk about. Now, I think I've rambled on long enough about layering, concept behind layering, all that stuff. So before I cut this video off, we'll just talk about, I'm going to start from the outside in, as opposed to some people doing it the opposite and throwing clothes on. I already have all the clothes on. So we'll mostly just talk about my torso, but this applies to your whole body, from your feet to your head. You have three layers, right? That doesn't mean three pieces of clothes. It means three groups of clothing. From the outside in, you have a shell, which can be windproof, waterproof, or both, or neither. You have an insulative layer, which is mostly wool sweaters, Polartec fleece, down, PrimaLoft, anything that's bulky pretty much that traps heat. And then the side closest to your skin is your base layer, or think of it as your second skin. Its job mainly is to transport sweat and perspiration from your skin through that fabric to the insulative layers. And the reasoning behind that is it gets that moisture away from your body, because moisture can be a big killer, and it can chill your body, and it will make your body work harder to keep you as warm as it needs to be. So those are your three main categories. The next video, I'll get straight to the point. and I'll go through all three quickly, and then maybe dive in a little bit deeper on certain objects or certain subjects.